this is something else that he was referring to. What about the other things apart from anti-CCP? So, what we'll look at now is not just seronegative or even a broader thing, body ache. There are so many patients keep coming to our clinic with either multiple joint pain or body ache or frank arthritis wherein rheumatoid factor is negative. So, how do we go about from a rheumatology perspective? First and foremost, some basic things. Any inflammatory arthritis can present as polyarthritis. So, when we talk about anti-CCP, we are just looking at a small subset of the entire thing. So, it can be any inflammatory arthritis. Rheumatoid, connective tissue, psoriatic are most well known. There are so many others like sarcoid, their vasculitis at times can cause. So, it is inflammatory arthritis, need not always mean rheumatoid. Extremely rare for a primary infection to come as polyarthritis. Monoarthritis definitely yes, but as polyarthritis definitely not so common. And metabolic causes rarely cause inflammation. They will cause arthralgia but not arthritis. So, step number one, if some patient comes with multiple joint pains or body ache or seronegative, first of all, what as a rheumatologist we are looking for is whether the complaints are inflammatory or non-inflammatory, because that changes the track straight away. If it is inflammatory, what is the pattern of joint involvement, because that will give us a hint towards the final, the cause of the exact diagnosis, exact type of arthritis. Thirdly, if the patient has backache, if yes, inflammatory, non-inflammatory, and then step 4 is the additional factors that will straight away take me to a diagnosis. So, inflammatory, non-inflammatory as far as joints are concerned, I am sure everybody here would pick it up. Once we know that it is inflammatory, what about pattern of joint involvement? As all of you know, rheumatoid is bilaterally symmetrical, large joints, small joints, inflammatory. So, this is what rheumatoid would look like. What is this? This is, sorry. This is what your seronegative. See, seronegative, let me also clarify. One is seronegative spondyloarthritis, which is the ankylosing spondylitis group. It is seronegative spondyloarthritis. And secondly is seronegative rheumatoid, but the rheumatoid factor is negative. And seronegative polyarthralgia would have n number of things in it. So, this is what a typical, these three figures would tell us what seronegative spondyloarthritis is all about. Either it can be purely axial, only the sacroiliac joints and the vertebral joint involvement. Costovertebral would also be facet, costovertebral, all those included. Or it could be combination of axial joint involvement plus some peripheral joint involvement. Peripheral joint in spondyloarthritis is typically asymmetric. It can be large as well as small, but it is typically asymmetric. Generally predominance of lower limb joints as compared to upper limb joints. So, it can be purely axial, it can be axial plus peripheral, and lastly it can be predominantly peripheral with just some involvement of one sacroiliac joint. So, this would what the pattern of involvement clearly give me a hint as to what I am looking at. So, first and foremost, ask the patient to keep his hand on the table, something that we saw. We will just run through, everybody I am sure is well versed with this. Obvious synovitis of the joints, obvious synovitis of the joint, obvious synovitis, bilateral hand joints, definitely rheumatoid. Just the wrist that is inflamed. Patients, early patients we should not miss out, very early. See, 8 weeks, even at 8 weeks, clear cut synovitis in multiple joints. We should not miss even if it is early. Even at 6 weeks, multiple joints are inflamed. At 3 weeks, as I said, when in doubt, compare the two sides. Compare this IP with that IP, definitely inflamed. No doubt about that inflammation. This type of patients we just saw, squeeze test, which will help us with a diagnosis. Again, coming back to that, it is inflammatory arthritis at the end of the ultrasound or MRI. Anti-CCP, ANA, these tests will give anti-CCP positive, definitely rheumatoid. ANA which is positive, see ANA when we look at, it is not just positive. ANA is done by two methods, either immunofluorescence or ELISA, which is written as EIA. ELISA is not a very good method, so we don't. So if somebody gets an ANA by ELISA, we ask them to repeat it with immunofluorescence. So immunofluorescence, if you ask for ANA, please ask always for immunofluorescence. Immunofluorescence, there are three things always written. One is the titer, 1:100, 1:320, 1:, whatever. 1:100 is as good as negative. 1:100 is something that Metropolis give. A few labs will give 1:40. So that first titer 1:40, 1:100 is as good as negative. Anything beyond that is considered positive. Then there is second is plus, +2, +3. It is visibly how much of radioimmunoluscence that you see. So that +1, the number of pluses increases the possibility of positivity. And thirdly is the pattern. You would see homogeneous, speckled, coarse speckled, fine speckled, all that. Those patterns are specific for each of the connective tissue disease. Something like lupus would have homogeneous. Every disease has its own pattern. So those are the three things that we look. But for you, probably what you can keep is anything more than 1:100 is positive, 1:40 is positive. Pattern of involvement when it comes to hands, rheumatoid, mainly MCP, PIP, DIP, I am sure all of you know. One, osteoarthritis, which can at times be erosive. Second most important is psoriatic arthritis. The moment DIP is seen, RA is almost out. Second would be this very important DIP. How do we clinically differentiate? One, look at the nails. Most of the times, if the DIP is involved in psoriatic, nail is generally involved. If you palpate the joint, OA, you will get that bony feel. In psoriatic arthritis, you will get that synovitic feel. There is something between our fingers and the bones. So this is something, again, something that everybody knows here. Psoriatic nail changes, you can see, this and this periungual erythema also of psoriatis. Frank onycholysis, the nail is gone. Psoriatic lesions, whenever you see DIP, so many times what happens in our patients is, this is still a social taboo, so patients don't tell us. Even for us, unless we ask, patients are not going to tell, so ask them and specifically look for these areas. Some of the hidden areas at times which the patient also does not know. Beneath the elbow, this is okay. See this, very common. Just ask the patient to, just show the scalp line. This is something that so many times the patients also don't know about, they have not noticed it. And behind the ears and umbilicus is one more area. So the moment you see DIP, definitely make it a point to look for this. Anybody for this? I have labeled it as lumpy bumpy arthritis. Anybody would like to have a go at this? See, till now whatever we had seen, the synovitis was very uniform. The entire joint looked uniformly swollen. This is, yes, this is gouty arthritis. So the moment you see lumpy bumpy, this would be gouty because this is a tophus. One more patient with the same thing. See, chronic gout just looks like rheumatoid. Even at times we have ended up, burning our fingers. Chronic gout can just look like rheumatoid. The moment you see this lumpy bumpy picture, always think in terms of gout. You can get tophi at multiple places. One more very common place is olecranon bursa. The moment you palpate, there is something else from synovitis, not to forget gout. Again, gouty tophi. It is the clinical picture rather than the uric acid report that governs the diagnosis of gout. Go to the first day when he started with symptoms. If it is episodic, definitely it would be gout. Rheumatoid, even to begin with, generally is not episodic. It is always, a continuous pattern. Okay, how do we go about this patient? No hand involvement, pain here and there, and you get a joint that is inflamed. Though this looks like monoarticular, there are other joints also involved. Whether it is rheumatoid, whether it is seronegative spondyloarthritis, how do we go about? See, this is what the pattern of joint involvement be that we already saw. When it is asymmetric, predominantly lower joint, very highly likely that it can be seronegative spondyloarthritis. So track goes there. One is monoarticular rheumatoid, if it is monoarticular involving only the knee. If there are other joints, definitely start thinking in terms of seronegative spondyloarthritis. One more thing that seronegative spondyloarthritis also comes up with, I am sure you must have come up with patients of this sort. There is no obvious inflammation, but the moment you ask the patient, he will keep pointing his fingers at multiple locations. See, the knee definitely is not all that inflamed, hardly any inflammation in the knee. a little bit of inflammation, if at all, you can see here, but he is pointing his fingers to multiple locations. Even see this, you can see this is again very prominent. This is enthesitic pain of seronegative spondyloarthritis. So there are multiple locations wherever there are entheses, these patients will keep on complaining of pain. Again, one more patient, the knee, hardly any inflammation, he keeps coming as, knee pain, knee pain, knee pain. If you ask him where exactly is the pain, slowly he'll start locating. See, this area, this area, this area, in this patient, this area. What is all this? This is all enthesitis of the peroneus. So this patient, if you get these type of patients, not obvious inflammation, but in the knee as effusion, but the patient keeps complaining of pain, locates multiple areas, this could very well be spondyloarthritis patient. Now we talked about some other additional specific features that give us a diagnosis straight away. Patient with multiple joint pains, dactylitis. What exactly is dactylitis? See, if you look at these toes, particularly these two toes, see, it's not a single joint that is inflamed. You can see the entire toe is inflamed. This is called as dactylitis. This can happen with fingers, this can happen with toes. This is very, very, very specific for seronegative spondyloarthritis. So differential for this, one is seronegative spondyloarthritis, most common, second is sarcoid, third is gout, four obviously TB, but TB would have other features also. It can't be multiple joints and fingers like this or toes like this. So the moment you see this, seronegative spondyloarthritis comes right there top. And with somebody who has inflammatory backache, has a toe like this, specificity for diagnosis of seronegative spondyloarthritis is 99%. You don't even require anything else to make a diagnosis. One more patient, see, this is exactly what dactylitis is. The entire toe is inflamed, and all these patients would have negative rheumatoid factor. So this will all fit into your seronegative group. This, and again you can see psoriatic nails there. So this is psoriatic arthritis with dactylitis. Some more additional features. This patient, again, if you look at this, tenosynovitis here, Achilles enthesitis here, psoriatic lesions here. You are through with a diagnosis of psoriatic arthritis. So these additional features really help. The other point that I mentioned was backache, and whether it is inflammatory or non-inflammatory straight away gives us clue to a diagnosis. What exactly is inflammatory versus mechanical backache? Inflammatory backache is associated with a lot of morning stiffness, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours. Mechanical backache, really no reason why the patient should have significant morning stiffness. Why is this morning stiffness? Why does it come? Because of inflammation in the sacroiliac and the vertebral joints, there is a lot of cytokines locally in this area. When a person sleeps, the blood supply to that area goes down. All the cytokines get pent up. When the patient gets up in the morning, maximum concentration of cytokines is in that area. So he finds it difficult to get up, difficult to walk. The moment he starts walking, blood supply increases, all the cytokines are washed away, then the pain improves. So this is exactly why so much of the inflammatory backache has significant morning stiffness. These cytokines also cause fatigue. So the moment significant fatigue comes into picture, inflammatory backache of seronegative spondyloarthritis group or ankylosing spondylitis. Activity, something that we just saw, will improve symptoms of inflammatory backache, whereas it is going to worsen symptoms of mechanical, because that is where mechanical triggers come into picture. Rest worsens the symptom of inflammatory backache but improves the symptom of mechanical backache. And lastly, there is no reason why mechanical backache should ever have systemic involvement like involvement of the eye, uveitis. So the moment that comes into picture, backache since many years, joint pain, now uveitis, straight away you have a diagnosis there. Lastly, when we talk about all this, let's not miss out on something else which also falls in the same seronegative group. Whenever we look at arthritis, this is classically that how we explain the bigger problems. See, this is a big man with a small suitcase. So the size of the suitcase is the number of non-articular symptoms the patient is having, fever, this, that. So a patient with arthritis is like this man with a small suitcase. He will not even complain about other things. It will be joint pain, joint pain, joint pain, joint pain and joint pain, and hardly something else. But the moment you see the baggage is bigger, there is something else happening. It need not be just rheumatoid arthritis. This baggage would mean rash like this, loss of hair, ulcers in the mouth. So this is basically lupus. So the moment other things, particularly fever, that is not always with joint pain comes into picture. Fever, rash, hair loss, ulcers in the mouth, start thinking in terms of connective tissue disease. It could be, something else waiting rather than just plain simple rheumatoid. One more patient, she has significant, see this, by the looks of it may look like rheumatoid. She has significant skin thickening, Raynaud's phenomenon. The fingers become turn blue or white when put in water. So the moment this comes into picture, systemic sclerosis is the most likely cause, though it may look like rheumatoid to begin with. Anybody with erythema nodosum cannot be rheumatoid. Generally it is Cox, somewhere chest or somewhere, and the body is just reacting to it. The moment this erythema nodosum or rash comes into picture, always be aware. Asymmetric arthritis, the entire hand is swollen, not really a particular joint. This is Hansen's. Again, see rash here. So anything of this sort, something which is carrying a bigger baggage apart from the arthritis, beware of other things that could be happening. This type of patient, puffy hands, puffy fingers, pain and swelling. This is a special type of rheumatoid called as RS3P, but this is something I'm sure we do come across quite a few times. Lastly, not to forget non-inflammatory causes like fibromyalgia, pain here, pain there, everywhere, and there is no inflammation anywhere. Not to forget one more, hypermobile joints. They come as multiple joint pains. At times there is inflammation because since the joint is hypermobile, there is an inflammation in a particular joint because of some irritation. We do tend to mistake this as inflammatory arthritis, but this is plain simple hypermobility syndrome. All that we need to do is make them aware of what it is and joint protection techniques. Flat foot again commonly comes with ankle inflammation, which tends to become chronic, but this can be taken care of with insoles. And lastly, in the seronegative group, one of the biggest very common things that patients come up with, multiple pain here, pain there, pain there. Common causes, too much of work, inadequate or poor sleep, stressors, lack of exercise, and then lastly the soft tissue pains. This would complete the entire seronegative. As I said, let's widen the horizon and include everything. Thank you very much.